Hello. Hello, I'm just doing all the usual that we always do. Just got in from a very blustery and a very blowy bimble. Nearly knocked me off my bloody feet at times. It's funny, Mr. Solarface was out. And we were playing the usual. I had a coat on and I was so hot and sweaty with the coat on. I'm still sweating now. And I put my hood up as well and it kept blowing down. It was annoying me, so in the end I left it. And I was so hot and I felt my ear and it was freezing cold. So hot, freezing cold, very, very blowy, very windy. We've been in, well, long enough to make a Slurpee and make a fag. 5-6 minutes. The weather has changed. The sky is grey. It looks like it's going to rain. There is no sign of any sunshine whatsoever. How soon it can change. It can change in different areas as well. Speaking to a friend of mine not too far away just last night, and because we had a reasonable day yesterday, and I said, how's the weather? And he said, it's pissing down. I said, really? I mean, it's not far. And I said, well, we've got nothing whatsoever here. Strange. Strange how that can happen, really. Okay. So we've got another My Thoughts to do. Let me have a swig of a Slurpee. Cheers. Hot. So professional, why didn't I get my glasses before? This is from Trev R. Trev R says, I'd really like your thoughts, please. That's polite. I'd really like your thoughts, please, on paying tax, especially thinking about what we pay in as opposed to what we get back. So Trev R, I'd really like your thoughts, please, on paying tax, especially thinking about what we pay in as opposed to what we get back. Well, that's a contentious issue, Trev, straight away, isn't it? What we pay in as opposed to what we get back. Tell you something that annoys me about tax, really. Up until only a few years back, the Queen didn't have to pay tax. Now, we know her income. Right? We know she got trillions and trillions of pounds. Didn't have to pay tax. That is disgusting, absolutely disgusting. They had a bit of a chat in Parliament and they decided that she could pay a nominal fee as a tax thing. But it's kind of up to her if she pays and what she pays. So does she pay anything? Who knows? We're probably told that she pays $1 million a year or something like that. She probably doesn't pay anything. And then also you look at the big boys, you look at Google, Starbucks, Amazon, all those big companies, big corporations that don't pay any tax. That's wrong. I don't like tax. I feel that that is wrong because they're earning millions, billions in some cases perhaps, you know. It's just so wrong, really, that the very, very wealthy can get away with it. Also, there's politicians, they've worked out tax loopholes and moving their companies abroad and various things like that so they don't pay tax. And yet they will vote on whether to up the bloody taxes for the ordinary person. So Trev says, what about paying tax in as opposed to what we get out? Well, as an ordinary person, as I say, you've got Google, you've got Amazon and what have you, they're not paying any tax, and yet somebody who works for them in their warehouse, probably on what, 15 or 20 grand a year, I don't know what it is, if they didn't pay tax, if there was somehow, there is no how, but if there was somehow that they did not pay tax, they'd be down on them like a ton of bricks. They'd be put inside. In fact, there are people inside for embezzlement and fraud and tax evasion and things like that. And it's all sort of centered around tax, you know, tax avoidance. People have had enough of paying tax. You pay tax from the minute you're born to the minute you die, and then after, on inheritance tax and all the rest of it. So yeah, what we pay in, well, actually what we pay in is huge. Just check I turned my mic on. Yeah, I did. What we pay in is huge. I remember the trolls back, when I started travelling, they were saying, what was their favourite thing? Freeloader. Freeloader, you should pay tax. Everybody's so conditioned that you must pay tax. You must pay tax at all times. If not, then, oh my God, you're doing something terrible. It doesn't matter about the Queen. It doesn't matter about Starbucks, Amazon. Is it Microsoft and all that don't pay tax either? They've decided, and yet the ordinary man, an ordinary bald-headed man in a van, must pay tax. Freeloader, they were all going. And what made me laugh was, I bought my vehicle and I paid tax on it. And then I went and bought a tax disc, it was in them days, wasn't it? A tax disc. Then I filled it up with diesel and there was tax on that. And I got it serviced and I paid tax on it. And I took it down the MOT place and paid tax on it. Before I'd done a mile, I paid 5-6 lots of tax. Every single time I went to buy any food, I paid tax. If I bought any new clothing or a book or a CD, I paid tax on it. And I was being taxed every single day, multiple times a day. And the trolls were saying, freeloader, you should pay tax. Well, how much more do you want me to pay? Do you want me to pay for every time I get wet in the rain? Should there be a rain tax? Should there be a breathing tax? A blinking tax? What more tax could I have possibly paid to appease the brain dead trolls? How much more tax, while other people are getting away with it, other big companies and what have you are getting away with it, and the ordinary man, me, I was a freeloader because I was a freeloader because I was paying tax multiple times a day. Doesn't make much sense, does it? So I've paid tax all my life. And what I get back for it, or what we get back for it, is very little really. Even if you're on some form of benefit, if you get child tax credits or... I don't class pension as a benefit. I don't class that at all. In fact, all benefits I don't class as a benefit. I class them as an entitlement. Get rid of the word benefits and use the word entitlements, and things are easier in the mind because you are entitled to that. You pay in a certain amount of money for the national health, say, all of your life. When you get to 50, you have a heart attack and you need some assistance from the national health, you don't feel guilty about it. That's your entitlement. So if you're, I don't know, an office worker and you've worked all your years, they move the office to an Indian place or Chinese place or somewhere cheaper, and they lay you off, and for a time you're not working and you need dole, I don't know what they call it now, but dole, entitlements. That's your entitlements. You're entitled to that money back. And what you get back is minimal, tiny amounts. I think the government's pots, big pot, and they pay 1% of that out in benefits or entitlements. 1%. That's all. It's like a cake, isn't it? One slice, a tiny thin slice is benefits. A huge slice is, armies and war and weapons and guns. That's a huge slice. Another big slice is running the country, the schools, the hospitals, libraries, things like that, So there has to be some form of tax. There has to be. I don't think it should be at the rate that it is. I think it's discussed now how much we're taxed. I don't think there should be tax on food. Don't think that at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you can say, well, follow the line along, the farmer gets taxed. Well, why does he get taxed? Tax the big companies, the big corporations. If a company is earning billions per year and doesn't pay tax, then there's something wrong with the tax system. Simple as that. So we get very, very little back. Even if, say, say you're poorly and you've been diagnosed with a particular illness or disease or whatever that puts you bedbound, and you're on whatever sickness entitlements for most of your life. So what? If we can't look after our own in a situation like that, then there's something wrong. We can always find money to go to war. We can find money in this day and age, 2019, when people are using food banks, when there's homeless people on the street. We can find money to pay for a family that we call the royal family to live in luxury, a very lavish lifestyle. We throw money at these people, and then we find out they pay no tax. Now they pay what they feel they want to. They live in these castles and houses that are not owned by them, so therefore they don't maintain them. That's down to the ordinary man, the taxpayer. They don't decorate them. That's down to the ordinary. If they get a leak or a fire, that's down to the ordinary man to put right. They won't put their hand in the pocket. They may have trillions and trillions of pounds, but no, I live here, somebody else will pay. That's how it is, and that's absolutely disgusting. So yeah, tax evasion and stuff like that, you can't blame people, can you really? People trying to get by, and if they can not pay tax, if they look up to people like they look up to the royal family, or they look up to these huge corporations like Amazon and Starbucks and Google, if they look up to these big people and see that there's a loophole, if they look up to politicians who are conning and thieving their way through life, then why on earth should they bother paying tax? I pay tax on most things, but everybody that I've had here to do whatever, a little job for me or whatever, I always say to them, I only pay cash, so I don't want you to pay any tax. So therefore I don't want an invoice or anything like that. And everybody, not some, every single person said, oh, okay, great mate, well in that case I'll charge you, and then they give me a realistic figure, you know, from a carpet fitter that wanted X amount of pounds, and I said, okay, that's great, yeah. Now I only pay cash, so I don't want you to pay tax on it. I don't want an invoice, I don't want anything. I will pay you tax. Sorry, I will pay you cash. And he said, oh, okay, yeah, great. In that case, mate, what the price will be is 55 quid knocked off. That's a huge amount. 55 quid knocked off. That was fantastic. I had another guy did the washing machine for me. I phoned him up and I explained what I thought the problem was, and he said, yeah, he came out at 2 o'clock or whatever, and I said to him on the phone, I only pay cash because I don't like paying tax. I don't want you to pay tax on it. I just don't like the thought of me giving my money away to somebody, then they're taxed on my little bit of money that I've given to them. And he was fantastic. He said, oh, great, okay then. Anyway, he came out, he was here for 40 odd minutes. He charged me £20. Don't know what he would have charged me properly with an invoice and all the rest of it. And I did it to the removals men, and I've had several people work on this property or help me in some way. Even recently with a car, when the car didn't go and I needed a new battery and what have you, he just charged me what he bought the battery for. So there are ways of avoiding tax, just little bits like that. I think the ordinary working man that comes to me to do a little job should have cash in hands and nobody should know about it. That's what I think. That is wrong in some people's eyes. Some people go, oh, I couldn't do that. Well, that's fine, I suppose, if that's the way that you want to be, you know, in life. But just think about it. think about this tax. Think about these huge organisations that don't pay tax. The unfairness of it all. It's absolutely disgusting, I think. Now, some will agree and some will disagree on what I've just said there. And that's absolutely fine. That's up to you, isn't it? I don't give a shit. You know, that's... I feel that it's unfair. The tax system, I feel, is unfair. Yes, I feel that I do understand there should be a tax system. There should be something. You cannot live... You cannot really live just on nothing. You know, you've got to pay something in to the so-called system. But the money you're paying in gets squandered left, right and centre. Left, right and centre is disgusting. Do you know, at one stage I worked for a council and I changed jobs 3 times. I was there for about 4 years. I changed job 3 times, but within the same council. My last job was very well paid. I have to say, you know, at least I was well paid, so that was good. But we got a yearly thing come round, and it shocked me because it gave the wages of heads of departments and then the CEO of the council. And I can't remember what he was on, but it was astronomical. It was absolutely disgusting, the amount of money that man was on. And he used to work, well, I mean, he was paid a lot of money. I mean, he had a full-time job, but he used to work sort of part-time. He used to pop in and out, you know, if and when. And he did share meetings occasionally and things like that. So he did a little bit for his money, but the money he was on was just disgusting. It's like anybody, isn't it? It's like the man who climbs up the ladder in the wind and rain to repair a phone line or an internet line is on, I don't know what, say 20 quid an hour, something like that. But his boss is on 30 quid an hour who sits in a warm office. But the guy who goes around looking after several of these places is on £50 an hour. But his boss is on £100 an hour. The less you do, the more you earn. And, you know, you probably find that a lot of these big earners, their money is kept abroad, so they don't have to pay tax on it. I even pay tax on a little bit of money that I've got in my bank account. I get taxed on it. So I get taxed to earn my money, then I put my money into a bank account and get taxed on it. It's absolutely disgusting, really. But, you know, you go down the road, you go to a supermarket, you buy some food for a meal for tonight, and you pay tax on it. You come back and you prepare your food, you put it in the oven, and your oven is either electric or gas, which you pay tax on, and you cook your nice meal, and you put it onto the plate that you've bought, that you've paid tax on, and you eat it with a knife and a fork that you paid tax on, and you're sitting on a chair that you pay tax on, then you go and wash up, and you wash up in water that you pay tax on, and that meal, you paid 5 or 6 lots of tax. That's how it is. It's just wrong, I think, really. You know, I don't know how, if I was to work it out, I don't know how I would work out tax. I think what I would do, I would tax people in brackets, maybe. You know, if you earn £20,000, it's a couple of pound tax. If you earn £40, it's £5 in tax. You know, if you earn multi-billions, then it's millions in tax. That's how it should be. But it's easier to hit the ordinary working man. It's easier to have millions and millions of fivers coming into you than it is to say to Google, we're taxing you, you know, a lot of money. It's easier to do that, and it's constant as well. It's drip, drip, drip on the ordinary working man. Every time you turn the heating on, there's tax paid. Every time you turn the tap on, every Slurpee I make, I pay tax on. It's just tax, 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 tax. And as I say, that's right up until your death and after. You will be taxed on inheritance tax, and on the money that you've got in the bank, you know, you pay tax, as I just said, and it goes on and on and on. So, to answer Terry's question, what we get back is minimal, absolutely minimal, but it's our money. Funniest thing of all is when somebody says tax cheat or freeloader or benefit scrounger or dole bludger or whatever, they're getting their own money back. They've paid into that account, they're now withdrawing from that account, from their money. Their money. It's not the government's money. It's very clever, isn't it, that you got the media and all the rest of it, they say about tax dodgers or whatever, stealing from people like you. No, they're not. They're taking their money back out of their account. They're not touching you. Don't fall for that bullshit. Why are people not up in arms when we hear that politicians can have 2 houses, several companies, and have all those accounts held abroad so they don't pay tax on it? How come we're not up in arms about that? How come Amazon can continue to not pay tax? How come we're not up in arms about that? Yet if we find out that some guy works down a warehouse down the road and 5 nights a week he delivers food for a local Chinese takeaway and he earns a tenner a night, 50 quid a week, and he doesn't pay tax on it, and he's supposed to. And do you know what? People will dob them in. They'll have an upset with the neighbours, and the neighbours will phone the tax people and dob them in and say, you know, so-and-so works in a warehouse, but in the evening, yeah, 50 quid a week, and he don't pay tax on it. But so what? So what? Terrible. I honestly believe if you can get away with not paying tax, fair play to you. Well done. Well done. Fair play to you. And yet someone's going to now say, well, if we all did that, yeah, it's true. If we all did that, yeah, we wouldn't have anything. But if we all did that, and then they tax the Queen properly, and if we all did that and they tax Starbucks and Google and all those big guys, if they taxed them properly, there would be no need for any of us to pay tax. We could have a bit of an amnesty. They could say, okay, the ordinary person doesn't pay tax now for the next 10 years because we're going to tax the people that we should have been taxing all the way along. That's how it could work. I said at the beginning it's a contentious subject. It shouldn't be, but it is, because of people, their conditioning, people's programming, people's conditioning. I used to be, I'm not now, I've come off it, but on Facebook, my local town for many years was Didcot in Oxfordshire, and there's a thing called Spotted Didcot. I think Spotted now is all over the place, I think. I'm not on it in Dorset, I don't bother really anymore, but the one in Didcot, I used to look at it occasionally. As I say, I'm not on it now, but when I used to look at it, occasionally somebody would say, is there any cash in hand work going? Does anybody know of anything else, please? You know, I'm absolutely skint. Now, before they answered, I knew the second or third answer would be, yes, HMRC are taking on people. Why don't you apply to them, you scrounger, and stuff like that. That's how conditioned people are. You know, there may be a pot washer job going in a pub, something like that, that's just cash in hand. Well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with somebody who's finding it hard to manage? They're working 5 days a week, and a couple of nights a week they work behind a bar for a tenner an hour. What's wrong with that? Nothing. But people's conditioning, people's sad little mentality of their minds want to, I don't know, cause trouble, problems. Is it jealousy, maybe? Is it jealousy that, you know, somebody who works in a warehouse and for 5 nights a week he delivers Chinese food, but for those 5 nights a week he doesn't pay tax? Are people jealous that he's got an extra 50 quid that he's saving to take his kids away on holiday? Is that what it is? People are jealous. Anyway, Trev, long one there really, because I couldn't stop bloody talking. Thank you very much. If you've got any more my thoughts, let me know. Take care. Be well. Ta-da. Cheers.